Good evening, everyone. And tonight we are back for another um, evening of With a Woman, talking about different topics that kind of includes us or that we go through on a regular basis, but never is talked about. So tonight we're talking about depression. I think we've all been depressed sometime or another. But tonight we are talking a bit more about how it felt when you went through it and how you got en hoe het jy daar uitgekom? So vanaand gaan ons vir Sharonne vra en vir haar hallo sê en vir haar vra sy moet vir haarself introduce.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sharonne. My surname is Mitchell. I'm a mother and I'm a grandmother of four, mother of two, grandmother of four. And yeah, that's me. There's so much more than you can see, but yeah, also het gewoon niet daar zo. Zo gewoon daar vast.
Ek dink wanneer almal hy klein kinders hulle moet seker net klaar vir al in depressietyd gesit het al. Eendag wanneer tyd.
Not at all, not at all. Ek is eintlik baie happy met my kleinkinders. Ons het nie so 'n hegte band nie, ek sien hulle baie min, but I think that is my pride and joy. The fact that I'm around to enjoy having grandkids. Want my ma het hy voorheen gehad. Dis net my eerste kleinkind gesien. En my suster se eerste tweede kleinkind. And well, she passed away before she could see the rest. So ek is quite happy dat ek vir het en jy kan sien, as om te kan sien as vir. As nie hulle so graag as hulle wil sien. But I know I've got four. Yeah.
Nee, dis goed so. Okay, so vanaand is die topic depression, né? En om 'n bietjie te prepare, gaan ons gou voor die als gaan ons die 'n paar van die characteristics van depression. And there's a lot of things that people is like, obviously the biggest thing is the pattern in your sleep, it changes. The pattern in your appetite, it changes. Either you eat too much or you eat too little. The energy level changes. So there's like a slaapgees in your in.
Yes.
You struggle to concentrate. And there's an issue with self-esteem. How do I feel about myself? How do I love myself? Ek kan nie lekker sien hoe ek voel en gaan te kere nie. But what I also found very unique is, weirdly enough today, there was another topic waar mense gepraat het oor depression. And they kind of broke it down into the four stages that women go through in depression, which is PMS. Dis wanneer die gaan ons nou jong meisie raak soos hulle sê. So PMS and that is because your body raak mos nou reg vir gaan ons nou birth, your body raak reg vir kinders te dra. En dan is daar die peripartum depression. Daai is meestal wanneer jy nou enige tyd wanneer jy 'n kind het, van jou energy levels is hoog. Okay? So that's die hele build up, jy kan net anxious wees vir enige ding. So daai is like peripartum depression. And then you get something that's called postpartum depression. Daai is wanneer jy klaar die kind gehad het. En nou is die hele energy level weer laag. So through PMS, it's like all of these energies or your estrogen is hoog, and peripartum your estrogen is hoog, en dan by postpartum is like jy het ook klaar kan gehad, nou alles is like gesak, and then you start with like the baby blues, as they say. Maar hulle gee net 2 weke vir daai, en dan kan het ook ingaan into bipolar. En dan wanneer jy weer in menopause stage gaan, dan is dit weer ook 'n postmenopausal depression, because now as jou hormones is ook weer daar's weer ander dinge wat gebeur met jou hormones. And I thought like that's very interesting for the fact that sometimes dink ons like depression is 'n groot ding. Like as jy 'n bietjie depressed voel jy like okay, jy moet nou gaan en jouself inboek. But basically het is ook alles te doen met hormones. So based on that, watter tipe depression het jy miskien al deur gegaan nou?
Ek ons begin op die characteristics van depression. Don't forget sex drive.
And that's
Some people go sex drive, yes. Either it goes low or it goes overboard. And then
Mm.
postpartum depression, my mother had a problem with that. I remember she had a problem with that. I remember I basically raised my siblings because my mother was in that stage where she after she gave birth, I'd like at my ma het krag gehad vir die kinders. But I don't think it was so much that sy krag gehad, it's net dat sy van 'n mate afgesny het. But hoor ek jy praat van 2 weke en I can't remember
Mm.
2 weeks, I remember months. I remember more than a year that I had to take care of them before I go to school. I had to make sure that the nappies are soaked and all of that. That everything is put right for them. Hulle kos vir die dag, hulle alle goedjies vir die dag as reg is want ek weet my maat het hy krag gehad of daai stamina of whatever you call it. She just
Mm.
didn't have that. It must tell me. So I basically raised my 2 siblings van my ma. I would sometimes get home from school as vang ek my ma met my broer of my suster as niks sy wil amper half in die muur gooi. Want sy kon nie vir hanteer dit dan is ek maar net daar en ek vir afpraat, you know. Praat vir
Mm.
af en dan mommy it's fine let me take care of them that so that is
Mm.
postpartum that is how ek het dit self met myself gewoon ondervind nie wat my ma dit reg ondervind.
Mm.
Okay, for me depression I think I was a very sickly child. If you start back from my background, I was a very sickly child. I was a child that was born um, I was supposed to be a twin. I was supposed to have a twin brother that didn't develop. I was about 25 when I went for a routine gynae appointment to fill out my broer's testicles binne my vagina. Okay, so my twin didn't develop. The same with my baby daughter. She also had a twin that didn't develop. But to come back to depression, um, I think I experienced depression from a very early stage in my life. Ek dink ek het 'n naam gehad daarvoor nie of dit
Mm.
verstaan nie because I was a secret child number one. My mother was a domestic worker. My mother in Oceanview gewerk in Clow Valley het sy gewerk. Domestic worker. My father was a artist. And that back then was artist wasn't a black man's trade or a colored man's trade. It was a white man's trade. So what
Mm.
happened was Raymond Ackerman discovered my father on the beach at Sea Point where he was busy with his artwork, and I was running around there, and he kind of like took my father in his wing and my pa gesponsor. En my pa, omdat ek toe gesê my pa was vir 70 jaar oor see, hy daar gewerk, hy was 'n
Mm.
professor en al daai tipe goed. But to come
Mm.
back to the depression, when what happened was my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, my father's mother took care of me and my sister when we were quite young, when we were children. En toe my ouma nou doodgaan, toe moes gebly ons by my ma. In new environment.
Mm.
My ma toe 'n boyfriend gehad, ek my ma se man geword en later on toe het my pa was 'n bietjie, jy weet, bietjie anders getreed as wat ons so verwag het was, mos ons eie pa nie. So as 'n klein
Mm.
bietjie die domestic violence daar.
Mm.
Um wat ek mee gesukkel het en but the thing with me was I could never get myself to a place to really feel depressed because I always had to think ahead. Ek is my sê ek het 'n baie vinnige brein, ek dink vooruit. So what I
Mm.
did was at the time was toen ik opgegroeid, my way of dealing with it was journaling. Ek was nie verskryf.
Mm. Mm.
Ek is oor 'n pen vir 'n mens. Ek hou van 'n pen, 'n blaai. I would put down my feelings and whatever what I'm feeling that moment en baie kwaad was my eie pa want as jy was wat die die gegaan en so aantie. But at the end of the day I had to deal with it in my own way
Mm.
without even thinking that to get a coping mechanism. Het ek vir iets uitgewerk that was my writing, journals, poetry en dan I excelled in schoolwork.
Mm.
So ja, soos ek opgegroei het met die goed wat by die huis gebeur en so aan het ek I don't know what you call it. Ek het die term vergeet vir daai, maar as waar my hare uitval, as jy stres, dan val jou hare
Mm.
uit.
Mm.
So
Mm.
ek sou skool toe gaan dat ek die hare op my kop het en dan word ek nog gespot dat 'n rot in my kop gehad gestaan.
Ah ja, kinders.
Ek kan nou rou,
Kinders.
ek kan nou rou lag. Yeah, I was taunted and that made me not I gravitated more to the boys side because I accepted me more
Ja.
than the girls. So ek het 'n bietjie weggebly by
Mm.
myself and die boys was me accepting. So die tyd ek kom gaan what I did was ek was goed in my skoolweek. Ek wou graag netbal speel, maar kon nie netbal speel want ek het jare gehad nie. Kan jy glo daai jaar die mense hare netbal speel met hare because if they jump they flip the hair, flip die hare. Ek het dis op 'n flippie. Hy is niemand op my koppie. Ek kan nie flippie. So what I think ek gaan nou kry man. Ek gaan play gesmil so okay. Gaan speel okay. The first time I played okay, I was so stupid. Ek score own goal. Ek voel kwaai. Maar as seniors in the school, I scored a own goal. I felt so quiet because in the Kogel school. Anyway, ek was like, nee girls, they maak het nie. Verkeerde bus. And but when I started getting the gist of playing hockey, I excelled at hockey the best way I could. So yeah, at 17 I was a late bloomer when it came to sex. Ik is maar op 17, 18 is beginnen seks het my vriendinne op skool het my gevra van seks. Waarvoor praat julle? Waarvoor koffie julle so? Waarvoor praat julle? Het gekom so. Waarvoor praat julle die kom en so? Ik verstaan niks. Ek is dom onnooslik. So ik heb maar dat hier gegaan en so en luister maar met maatjies en I was raped at 17 by a friend that I thought was a friend at me verkrag. Never spoke about it, only spoke about it about how many years later? About almost 20 years later. When I counseled someone and when toe ek met die kind praat, toe kom ek agter, joh, maar hoe klink die storie so bekend? Toe was ek, joh, maar jy was mos verkrag. I suppressed it memory. So through all these kind of stuff, I kind of had depression, yes, but the point I'm trying to make is I had to find so many coping mechanisms for me not to get into the groove of being depressed, of laying down, of giving up. I remember when I was about 16, 17, I developed bulimia. Want nummer 1 was hospitaal my hare gehad op my koppie. Ek het nugget agter na my hare gesmeer, op my kop gesmeer. Dit is nie so lekker as hare, you know. Maak dit so 'n bietjie swart. Smeer nugget in my hare en maar gejournal, aangegaan met journaling en aangegaan met doen maar goedjies wat vir my laat goed voel so. And the main thing I think that got me out of being so depressed where I went to go lay down was my mother because she was my all. And my siblings, they were also, I always had to be up there for them. I always had to protect them from the domestic violence in the house. So for me, the safety of my mother and my siblings was for me of that was dit. So yeah, then I got married. I got married and I didn't get married because I was in love. I got married because I pitied the guy. Ek het jammer gevoel vir okay en part of getting married was getting out of the house. I felt pregnant. Aspirus, not by choice of nie per ongeluk aspirus because I thought if I fall pregnant, my father always said he want to rule in the house. As jy swanger word, die eerste keer is 'n mistake, tweede keer is aspirus. That's good. But when I felt pregnant, I eerste toe word uitgegooi. So for me to escape the domestic violence in the house, ek het aspirus pregnant geword het by Eastcon because that was my ticket out. Not that I'm happy about it because a lot of things happened afterwards like but ek bietjie spyt oor is wat ek niks aan kan doen nie. But eventually I got out of the house, I was put out and whatever. So I escaped the domestic violence for a bit. But my maat geboet. Ongelukkig het sy geboet. Ek was met haar wat beskerm my, was my suster beskerm my, broer beskerm my. My ma het gegaan. And then I got married. Oh, nog 'n potjie op sy eie. I got married and my man was bekeer. Hy was in 'n wat is die woord? Nie charismatic nie, hy was in 'n Pentecostal church, maar hulle was baie wat is die woord? Ek dink in Engels en Afrikaans. Ja, my goeie ek soek gou daai woord. As jy charismatic is anyway, kan ek by die woord kom wat ek probeer sê is hulle was tot in die diepste graad van bekeer was hulle. And me too, not just them, me too. Geglo in sekere goed in jy sterf by goed, jy skei nie al gaan dinge hoe jy tipe goed. En ek is ek was ook praat baie. Ek's 'n baie gesproke mens. Ek sê ook voel jy gaan nie vir my nog vra nie. Ek sê voel jy vra dan weet jy hoe voel ek. My gesig wys vir ek. En ek was in 'n bediening waar ek nie altyd kon sê hoe voel nie, want as ek gesê hoe voel dat is amper so ek skop teen die prikkels. I'm not being submissive. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Being submissive to my husband. En is net ek my man gaan ag dit is net ek het 'n voice. Ek kan praat. Ek het 'n blik op my lyf. Hoe kan ek sê hoe voel nie? Why if I say how I feel then I get ostracized because I said how I feel? Because why? 'n vrou moes gesien word nie gehoor word nie. En ongelukkig is ek daai tipe vrou nie. So daardoor met die depression. Oh, that depression was the worst. I tried to kill myself so many times. That nobody knows about. Ek het gevoel ek sien nie my kans in die lewe nie want ek het gevoel ek het nog 'n man want I had a good husband. We tell you this, I had an awesome husband. The only thing was he wasn't just my husband. Hy was almal se man. Hy was 'n kerk se man. Hy was almal se man. Hy het vir almal gehelp en vir almal bedien en vir almal. Maar ek het altyd gevoel ek lek. I was always last in line. Ek en my kinders ons my agtergewag het Comfortable, my was hulle nie glo nie. My was so hulle nie grond al. Was hy gemaak. So I went through that depression also. Daai het gebed my gehelp. Ek was mos op 'n keer, ek geleer om te bid. Nie dat ek geweet het om te bid, maar geleer ons Vader. Maar ek moes geleer om Pieter te bid, dieper te bid, in te bid en al daai, in te stry. So for my daai het gehelp, but eventually I just thought to myself, you know what, if I need to survive, the only way out is to get divorced. And oh, that was something that was not tolerated where I went to church. Niet ek vir hulle nou sleg maak of bad maak nie, but that was something, daar is so 'n party nie. Sy hou uit tot die laaste, you know? En ek het dit gevoel, nee, maar wie, to gain my own sanity, I have to walk out, and it took a whole lot out of me. Ek kan tot vandag nog nie glo ek het uitgestap nie. Not because it was a bad husband, just because I wasn't fulfilled as a female. As a woman, I wasn't fulfilled. Ek het gevoel ek is 'n vrou nie, ek het gevoel ek is 'n object, ek is 'n subject, ek moet submit en ek het pyn gehad om te submit, maar ek sal submit, maar dit is vir my ook, you know? Dat ek op my sê, but I couldn't. So, depression vir my, soos ek sê, ek kom al 'n paadjie aan met dit en wat vir my altyd gehelp het, soos ek sê, is journaling. Ek het maar gebid, toe ek nou bekeer word, maar gebid en maar gevra vir gebed en so aan te en toe ek nou bulimie ontwikkel, want ek het gevoel niemand aanvaar as ek is nie, ek het nie hare nie, my lyf is nie reg nie. So as ek eet, dan voel ek as ek kos ingaan, voel ek is vet, dan gooi ek die kos op want ek is nou te vet geraak van die bordkos. So it was all about having to fit in by society. Ek wil maar infit, ek wil voel, ek het hare op my kop, ek het my hare, ek wil voel my lyf is reg, ek gooi op want ek het môre moet lees ek het vet geraak het. It was all in my mind, you know. But eventually, toe ek nou ouer word, toe ek nou begin studeer en so aan te, en toe besef ek, you know what, ek het altyd in depressie gelei, and not knowing. But for me, unfortunately, ek dink ek is vroeg ryp gedruk deur die lewe, omdat ek so innerlike liefde vir my ma gehad het, want toe ek my verstand kry, toe ken ek my ma, en sy was my alles, my pa was mos oorsee gewees, hy was weg, en my ma wou nie trou nie, en my ma wou nie citizenship aanvaar oorsee nie, sy het gevoel, sy wil by haar kinders wees, al die twee goed, so my ma het gestak met oor, so I felt the need and the, seker maar, hoe kan ek nou sê, ek het seker maar gevoel, is net reg dat ek by haar stak, and I stuck with my mother, and I'm happy to say that I stuck with her. So, eventually my mother passed away at the age of 48, en dit het my in die depressie gedruk, en elke jaar, as ek verjaar, het ek 'n vrees gehad, ek gaan dood. Once I reached my 30s, when I came to my 40s, every time it was my birthday, had ek 'n depressie gehad, ek het 'n vrees gehad, ek gaan dood voor 48, want my ma is vroeg dood. I remember my eldest daughter, Sharonne, spoke to me one day. She told me, Mommy, you know what? If God wants to take you, He will take you. But stop stressing about dying. If you have to die, you must die. But I don't think God is in His place to take you so early. Ik is vandaag 50 hier gedaan, meneer. Trots om het te sê. En ek dink toe ek 50 haal, 49 het ek op 'n bietjie gestres, 50 haal, toe voel ek, oh, okay, I've made it. I don't have that fear anymore. Want dit het my elke jaar in depressie gedruk. As dit nader my verjaarsdag kom, het ek gehuil. Ek het gestres, ek was bang want ek gaan seker maar dood my ma op 48 dood. What I did with that again is, my coping mechanism with that is to begin to travel. Ek het gevoel ek wil nie in die land wees as ek verjaar nie, want my beste vriendin en my kollegas op my verjaarsdag dood 3 jaar gelede, en dit het ek my getref. Ek was ook klaar depressief oor verjaar. Bang wie so 48 jaar gaan dood. Toe sterf sy ook af, toe voel ek, sy nog dood, en nou hoe nou? So I started traveling. So every year I've got this thing. When it comes to my birthday, that's ek somewhere in 'n ander land. Ek is daar op 'n eiland. Ek voel ek wil 'n bietjie wegkom. Nie vir my bang as nie, but just to get me in another space waar ek voel, you know what, ek wil celebrate life. Because when I'm here, that's ek te depressed. Ek wil net chunk. Ek huil net. Ek is depressed. So yeah, for me, depression had many different ways of manifesting itself. And by the grace of God, I can say I had so many other ways of dealing with it. Okay, getroud met 'n man wat ek kan lees en skryf nie. Hy kan sy naam skryf en ek besluit nou ek gaan swat en ek is nog in die kerk en wat try jy nou? Wil jy jou man op stage? Hoe wil jy nou gaan swat? Wil jy jou man met 'n waarheid laat voel? Hy klaar kompleks gehad van 'n waardigheid. But it wasn't that, for me it was uplifting my family, you know? As ek moes op die post kry, die geld ek kry moes ons geld. Ding wat ek gaan doen is vir ons, but it wasn't received as such. It was more than like amper so even my man no shade. So sy kry lingua franca gaan, you want to shade someone, amper so even my man in die oor sit. Hoe wil jy nou swat? First degree, second degree, third degree. By the grace of God, ek het maar geswat, swat, swat. And then where I found my niche, where I really now kind of like got to grips with the depression, is when I started studying psychology, number one, ethics, number two, en toe gooi ek myself totaal en al in women's and gender studies. Wat moes ons leer van hoe vroumense oppress word en hoe vroumense oppress, you know? Because vroumense, females are the gatekeepers of female oppression. Ons dink manne oppress vroumense, maar eintlik ons vroumense wat mekaar oppress. Want ek voel if you think about the Sudanese people, what do they do with the young girls? Hulle doen clitoridectomy, hulle kan se klitte uit want die kinders moenie full pleasure nie. You know that kind of stuff. Who is the people that enforce that? It's females. Dis nie manne nie. Die manne wil dit hê, maar ons vrouens doen dit. Ons gryp ons kim gou vinnig. Ons skiet op ons kind en voel ons hou jou klit uit want jy moenie lekker kry nie. You know that kind of stuff. So females are the gatekeepers of female oppression. Ek het gevoel I'm a feminist en ek het gevoel let me just do what I can to change this. So die posisie waar ek in is waar ek werk, ek werk met my kinders en ek probeer soveel as moontlik vir hulle ook amper wys maak ek jy hoef te by vir 'n man nie man. A man shouldn't be of end all no be all. Jade voice. You can't say no. If he comes to you with other comments from nie bro, as if it's not on, it's not in. That type goed. So those kind of stuff kind of like feed me. Het my gehelp. Die my marriage, die my oppression met die kerk wat ek amper sê want I don't think I've ever been more depressed or depraved than when I was in church. Nie dat ek swak maak, nie verkeerd verstaan nie. Is net dat ek kon nie myself sê. The way I got dressed. I remember the pastor's wife asked me one day, juffrou sister, vir wie maak jy vir jouself so reg? En ek kon nie verstaan wat sy vra nie. Because I was dressed up the way I feel comfortable and sexy and aantreklik vir myself en my man. But it was seemed like as amper ek trek by aan vir ander mense, but it wasn't the case. So ek moes nou long, groot los klere aantrek wat vir my lyk ek is nou sister Mitchell. Ek is nou die sister. Wat ek nie meer probleem gehad nie, maar voel ek daai rokkie of daai skirtjie of daai dingetjie laat my beter voel hoe wie ek is. Because I'm a very sexual person. I'm a kind of person that not that I want to flaunt who I am, but I dress the way I feel comfortable. Ek sal nou nie kyk toe gaan met 'n kort rokkie nie, maar as ek voel daai dingetjie laat my goed voel, then I would wear it. But it wasn't received as such. So daai ook van depressie gedryf, want ek het gevoel ek het nie 'n voice, my man het nie opgestaan vir my nie. Hy was nie by die posisie wat ek kon sê, look at my wife is dressed that way, yes, but it's not to entice other men. You know? En Weet iets vra?
Nee, ek wil gou weet het, want soos jy nou gepraat het met hoe die stages van depression gegaan het, nie? Want dit was nog eers met die hare en toe later aan was dit like die meer het baie van die goed wat toe gebeur het op die ouer stage, like adult stage, was daai like 'n build up van wat gebeur het toe like jy jonger gewees het.
Ja.
Okay. En want soos ek deur die goed gegaan het, moes nog gewees.
I would say that yes. It het. Maar ek dink
gaan nou aan.
Ek voel al die klomp goed het gebou, maar ek kon deal with it. Ek kon daarmee deal. Maar ek dink wat vir my moeilik geword is toe ek nie meer alleen is nie, want toe ek moes so iemand aan my sy, my man, wat ek nog gedink het wat my would back me up. Not as ek verkeerd is nie, maar as ek kom ons nie praat as 'n vrou nie. Ek moes my mond hou. Ek moes submissive wees as ek kom by die kerk. Maar toe ek het gevoel as my man moes opgestaan vir my, you know? But he didn't for whatever reason. En daai was die diepste vorm van depressie vir my because I didn't have backup. When I was alone, I had backup, my own backup, because I could figure something out. But when I had someone, toe my man trou, toe kon ek nie met my eie, kyk, jy is al twee mense wat ingeword het. So ek moes maar nou nie doen of gaan soos hy gaan en so ons kyk by my verwag om te gaan. So daai het my eintlik gebreek word. Ek sê vir jou dit het my totaal gebreek. Ek dink ek het baie geleer by die kerk. Byvoorbeeld een ding, ek wil iets sê. Something happened earlier in the week, and I told a colleague of mine, my pastor het my geleer, moenie moeilikheid gaan soek nie. Wat 'n moeilikheid na jou toe kom. You know? That is one of the things dat ek geleer het. En toe moeilik na my toe kom, toe kan ek dit nou lekker vasvat. Want kyk, Jay, kom ons na my toe, man. Kom, wees hoe laat is dit? You know? Kom ons kom mekaar uit. Jay, was gevoel, jy kom na my toe. So is dit nou. Is dit nou. Ons maak nie preferensie. Daai is seker. Maar ek gaan nie agter jou aanloop nie. Ek gaan nie agter jou nie. So that is something I've learned in the church where if I was in something I would die with. So ek het verskriklik baie geleer. I promise you, the person I am was ook gevorm deur die kerk. Moenie 'n fout maak en ek am not talking about the church because I'm bad mouthing it. I'm just saying what was my challenge with the church. Die feit dat ek moes submissive wees en die feit dat my man moes hom gewys hy is die man en ek moes onderwys en dat hy ook as gevolg van die feit dat hy verwagte vir hom geskep was hy moet daar wees, kon hy nie van my opkom nie. En tyd binne dieper depressie is al the rape, all the other stuff was nothing compared to the depression I suffered when I was in church.
Can I ask you a question? Do you think the fact that so many men maybe in your life also kind of let you down, as you said, your dad had to leave. Well, he didn't have to leave, but he left. And because your mom chose to kind of stay, you kind of felt, okay, sy het nog gebly vir ons, tipe ding. So ek gaan naby staan. And then she found another husband, and then that domestic violence like started, né? And then it was the rape, and then kind of almost got married to get out of the domestic violence. Do you think like when you finally almost found that husband to almost kind of save you through the depression, and that didn't happen, that was like almost like a mudslide for you when it came to depression?
Okay, that is so interesting. No? Let me tell you this. Marrying the husband was not my getting out of the house was getting pregnant. Because I knew ek het geweet ek gaan uitgeskop word. Ek het maar gegaan agter die agter gesegde eerste keer is 'n mistake, tweede keer is 'n spurs, but when I was thrown out, that was my way out, number one. But marrying my husband was never an issue of or idea of 'n gedagte van jy gaan my red van depressie of nie. I married my husband because I felt sorry for him for different reasons. I grew to love my husband en ek dink dit het my die seerste gemaak het die feit dat ek was nie verlief op hom nie, ek was nie lief vir hom, ek lief vir hom. I liked him, I enjoyed him. Ek het swanger geword en getrou met hom, but I learned to love him, om het so te stel. So trou met die man was nooit 'n gedagte van jy gaan my die depressie bring. No, I married him because I felt sorry for him, and I married him because ek het nie kans om my kind te stiefpa te gee nie. Because ek kom dat hier, you know. So that is, but months het ek gevoel nie man spesifiek. I felt my father left me down, my own daddy left me down. Maar soos jare aangegaan het ek meer waardering gehad vir my pa, my groot gemaak het. So I had a daddy, yes, my father was my father, and I will never, I don't like using the word stepfather because my father is my stepfather, is my pa. Toe ek regtig nou verstand kry, toe ek nou verstaan my ma het nou iemand gekry, toe staan my pa. En hy is my pa bly tot dooddag toe. I love my father with all of my heart. And I'm not talking about the domestic violence because I'm making my daddy bad or anything. I'm just using it as an example of how I dealt with depression en hoe depressie vir my gewerk het, hoe het gekom dat ek depressie was as gevolg van die tipe goed. But as things went on, toe ek ouer geword het, dinge beter geword, you know. I mean, ek het uit die huis gegaan, ek het weer terugkom as 'n kind. Ek het dit huis gegaan, maar toe ek die dag was dit ek wil trou, toe sê ek vir my ouetjie, hallo ouetjie, gaan vra my pa om te trou. Moenie dink jy omdat ek nou uit die huis ek kan net vir my trou nie. Jy gaan vra my pa. I still gave him the respect because he was still my father. Ek pa my groot gemaak het, nie my eie pa nie. I blame my pa. He will always say my daddy and he's really dear to my heart. So dinge het beter geword en ek het nog steeds huis toe, so is getroud as en die kinders gekry het. I had 2 daughters. Every Sunday was a ritual. Ek gaan my pa se huis toe, my ma my pa se huis toe, we will talk, we have also dinge so my ma she would have something baked or cooked or something. Ek en my man en my kinders ons gaan eet elke Sondag na kerk. So we had that relationship. So it doesn't mean because I went through domestic violence that it was a lewe verstuur of ek het teenoor my pa nie. No, I still have a relationship with my daddy. If I diep in kinders vir 'n fees, soms gaan ek winkel toe, ek kry my pa in die pad en as ons soen mekaar, druk mekaar, we have a good time. That is a past as verby. I'm just mentioning this as as voorbeelde oor hoe ek gekom het by depression. Not because I want a bad mouth at church, not because I want a bad mouth my daddy, nothing like that. Just to say that hoe het ek gekom het ek depressed geraak het by tye and how I dealt with it.
Look, as jy dit wat ek probeer om op te bring, is net I find that tonight's topic links very much into last night's topic because last night we were supposed to talk about plus size models, and what we actually spoke about was the fact that the silent rapes, né, or the less severe rapes, that you almost don't know that you've been raped because it's not what you have come to know in media what rape is. And so tonight's topic almost sounds similar to that way. When we talk about depression, we talk about, you on tablets, you need to find means to cope. But again, it seems this topic is again coming up that when it comes to the little depression, the little um, kind of tiny depressions that we all go through, we have a way of not knowing that we're going through depression, but we almost all of us have been through
Exactly.
depression. And the thing that wat ek ook opgelees het
Yes.
was is that when they kind of label it depression as like hulle gee veel as like baby blues. Once jy die baby gehad het, then you go through a thing called baby blues, nee? Because nou as jy mos nou die kind is uit, almal jou hormones sak. So it's amper soos like wat het ek nou om te doen, né? And so you almost have like 2 weeks. You have 2 weeks to get through that depression clinically. You have 2 weeks to get through that depression. If not, now you are labeled as postpartum depression. Because jy weet, as nou wil hulle jou pille sit of you need to go for counseling and stuff like that. Now that needs to happen. But I think a lot of people don't know that they are depressed. And it's like as like wanneer jy as op soos 2 weke jou due date en dan as die baby nie kom nie, dan moet jy gaan vir Caesar tipe ding. As like 'n hektiese ding wat niemand reg. Dis is 'n vraagie wat sê, oh, Chantal says the stance Pentecost. Die naam wat jy
dankie. Thank you. Daisy, woord, thank you Chantal. Appreciate it.
Soraya asks, how does one deal with depression that hits you unexpectedly? Could it be a build-up of emotions suppressed? Yes, Soraya, that is what when we started off,
Most
we kind of went through the 4 stages. So what we have learned was that stages, depression commit mixing of emotions. So girls go through emotions with PMS. En dis hoekom hulle sê die girls gaan jou PMS. And then you kind of, any lady that is kind of carrying a baby or getting ready to carry a baby, they can also go through depression because of now there's a high level of estrogen and things going through their body. Then you get the postpartum depression. That's when the baby is out and you kind of, it's like a low level of estrogen and stuff going through your body. So like I said again, you get like 2 weeks and it's like a baby blues. Also becomes postpartum, and then when it's very severe, you can also go into like a bipolar situation. And then when you get to menopause again, it's again because now your hormones and stuff is fluctuating. With then again it is postmenopausal depression. But it is also the fact that, like I said again, they give you that 2 weeks thing of if you don't come out of it for 2 weeks, you are depressed.
I feel so sorry for females that doesn't come out of that for 2 weeks. Seriously.
Yeah. En ek weet hoe deel them en van ek dink meeste mense is and I went through postpartum depression because when I had my baby, everything went well. My first child, everything went well. I had the baby. Well, I went in. I then they told me no, ek is nou overdue. Ek moet gaan vir induce. And I love her for my Caesar. And the way they treated me was so horrific because ek kom van die die een hospitaal that treated you very nicely and you felt like a woman. En toe gaan ek na 'n ander hospitaal, toe gaan jy nou name noem nie. Toe was
So
like,
rough and grof, ja.
ja, is baie die
I feel
mekaar.
that.
Ja, en toe omdat
No
I was
empathy.
raped, yeah, I was raped at 17. Dis nou my eerste encounter with baby. Almal kom krap in jou koek
I bring
en
out that goed. Oh yes, I can identify with that.
yeah, the only thing I wanted to do was I wanted to look for something to stab myself so that they can take this baby out, so that I can be released of this thing that is keeping me in this hospital. That is exactly what I gedink het. And then obviously when the baby came, you feel nice, and then now toe kom die depression like agterna because it's nou the borste wat die kind moet aankom.
Oh yes.
I remember there was a night that my mom slept with the child. Sy het toegelê met die kind. En hy altyd slaap. And in my mind I was like, jy weet, ek kan nou loop. Ek kan nie alles mooi pak, 'n bottel, whatever, and I can leave. Like, alles weet ek is uit, want dan dink ek is beter, ek kan by die droom. I can leave. And by the time they realized, as ek al lankal weghou, that was, my man het ook baie weggeweek daai tyd. With when I was with someone uit en goed. So it was like basically alleen. So I was like, you know, I can just, I'm gonna leave now. And the next week after that, toe ek nou vir my vir die check-up gaan en so aan toe. Ja, I was ek by 6 weke. Toe sê hulle, okay, nou as gevolg van die gaan hulle nou vir my op pille moet sit of ek moet gaan na 'n psychologist toe. En toe ek op pille, toe sê ek like, ek gaan nou self nou regkry. Want ek smaak nie pille nie.
Yeah.
That was automatically my thing. I didn't deal with anything. I was just like, ek gaan net myself regkry because ek smaak nie vir pille nie. So I never dealt with my depression or whatever happened. I didn't deal with it. I just didn't want to be on tablet and labeled as crazy. Want dis wat ek gedink het, mense dink ek staat nie, want ek is nou depressed. And then I immediately got it out of it. I was like, ek is reg. And so I did what you did, where it was like, you know, ek hou vir my besig. Because if I keep myself busy, I wouldn't think about it.
Oh yes.
Yeah. And I became, I think that's when my OCD kicked in. Because I was very like,
don't even go there. Don't even go there.
Skuif my koppie, like nie as 'n millimeter. Ek sal weer sê 'n koppie te skuif.
I'm the OCD queen.
Yeah. And so I became very OCD. Very OCD. Very, very OCD. So much so that my ma vir my gesê het, sy kan nou ophou. But because postpartum depression was never discussed, the only thing she told me was to get over it. I was like, no, come oor it. And so I really didn't have anyone to talk about. Afterwards, after me and her now got into organizations and all of these things, then she understood. And then she was like, sorry for that.
No, yes.
Yeah, because met hulle era was dit mos nie gewees, sy kry die kind, sy gaan aan, sy basie die kind se nappies, wara, en sy gaan aan. I was van, sy is depressed. It's like...
Dit was nie woordeskat nie. Wat praat jy?
Ja.
Dit kyk nie maar klaar, kyk na die kind. Ja. Dis 'n slegte ma.
Ja.
Jy moet goed stigmatize. Yeah.
There we go.
We didn't have the resources. Okay.
Okay. I say, why is there a stigma attached to depression? A lot of people keep quiet instead of talking about or gossiping about or judging you, definitely. And your few friends and colleagues who committed suicide because they felt that was the only way out. As again, Saraya, I don't know if you listen, but as ons as vroue nie, leer ons nog van ander vroue. En soos ek nou net my storie verduidelik het, my ma het die postpartum depression verstaan nie. So, it was net, hallo, dit 'n kind, kom oor dit. Jou kind moet keer jou. And the other thing, as almost like HIV. When we heard about HIV, it was a done. Jy wil nie na iemand gewees dat HIV het of gehad het of whatever nie, because the way they explained it was so it's like a leopard, like leprosy was it. Jy moenie naby daai mense kom nie. Instead of telling us, look, this is a disease, they are fine, they can have
Yes.
children, the children won't have HIV and all of this stuff. So dieselfde ding het gebeur met depression. It was such a big thing made about it, as if
Yes.
like
Mm,
net depressive mense moet vir hulle ingaan staan by die psychhospitaal en dan word hulle
mm.
classify as a malmens instead of
Mom
just
is
look
true. So true. They
instead
need
of
some
just
help. Yeah.
yeah,
And
instead of
guidance.
taking it like,
Yes.
look, this is a hormonal thing. Sometimes because of your hormonal fluctuating, this is how you're gonna react. You're gonna have rage. You're gonna have
Mm.
iewers skielik as you're happy, iewers skielik change.
Yeah.
It's all about your emotions and
Mm.
your hormones settling. And then if it doesn't
Mm.
settle, there is like
True.
contraceptives.
It is. Yeah.
There is tablets for that. Hulle het dit nooit vir ons so verduidelik nie. And so automatically when you hear someone is depressed,
Mm.
it's like,
Mm.
kom oor it. It's like,
Exactly. Just
oh,
mal. As I keep
yeah,
me young. Yeah. Come on.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that myth
Anything
that
else?
the,
Then anything else that uh,
come on,
as jy nou nie 'n regetpad geloop het en jou kind kykie dan is amper just 'n slegte maar is amper so anything else than not walking the straight and narrow about the raising your kids and having a baby and taking care of it as jy 'n slegte maar. And not to be racist now, but just think back, our colored people, we do always have the resource of going to a psychologist or psychiatric person. Ik denk ons colored vrouwen mensen zeker gezegd, after I had this operation of my knee, my ankle, to see ik voor iemand. Ons, I don't want to classify as colored, but ik, as a colored vrouw, proudly so, Cape Colored, voel, ik is zo gebouw, man. Als mijn binnen gebreek, ik ga mijn wife force mijn hond te gaan kosten. You know? Because I'm built like that. I just have to rise up. I can't lay down for too long. I must rise up. I must rise. Ik heb too lang met mijn been gesukkel. Ik kan nou weer loop lekker mijn been. I'm off the crutches. I'm off the boot. All that. Maar die probleem maken is ons so gebouw van jy force your way up. Now, if you can't do that, not all can do that, dan word jy classified as late, jy sleg, jy as jy goeie man nie, there's something wrong, just mal, there's something wrong with you. But then I just maybe need the guidance and support of some other female or someone else to just help me through this pitch. Ek gaan gou die rowwe paadjie man. Help my gou die hou goed my bietjie op. Ek try om te staan, maar ek kan nie, ek wil val, maar die ander mense sê as jy voel, nee, maar dit is slegte maar hoe moet jy nou jy daar af om kind te maak? Sê ons maar so 'n plain colored leg. Hallo, dit is om te lewe 'n kind, maar jy kan kykie, but they don't know what goes with that because ons almal sê selfe nie. You know, if
exactly.
I think of my mother, ek kan onthou ek het baie keer skool toe gaan. Dan sit ek in die skool en dan bid ek, Here, hou my broer, my suster tot ek by huis kom. You know, because I don't know what my mother's doing with my brother and my sister. Not because mother was a bad mother, because she was going through something that I didn't understand, but ek geweet in my kinderlike verstand en ek geweet something is not right. So with the moment I got, ek het ook gaan speel met die vriende na skool. Ek spat huis toe. By huis skool, ek soek my broer, soek my suster, wil kyk is nog heel, is alles alright. As my ma alright, mommy is mommy, ek is daar, you know, ek sal voer op in die oggende, ek spoel my broers en my suster neppies uit, ek sit in die was in die water, ek soak dit, as die skool kom, vinnig word gewas op hulle, ek moet vanaand nog droog wees, want hulle moet die neppies moet nou weer gebruik word. So ek het myself, lucky for me, God gave me that, because it wasn't me. He gave me that inclination of hy verstand, dat ek gedink het, kyk so my ma, is vir goeie spesie, help my ma, but what if she didn't have that? My pa did I verstaan nie, I don't even know if daddy knew about it, ek dink is my pa daar geweet. I don't even think he knew about it. But because ek het my ma dopgehou, because my ma was my alles soos ek sê. En ek wat dopgehou, where I could help, where I could support, I did that. You know? So yeah, depressie, and let me just get back to tablets. I was, vrou, ek was verslaaf aan pille. Ek was so devious nie. Ek het by feed, ek gaan nou nie name noem van die kliniks en tog hospitale nie. Ek het by elke dag ons wel 'n kaart gehad, heer. Ek was so onder bedrog. Ek het by elke plek gaan haal pille. As die pille is ons op en ek het klaar ander pille gaan iedere wag vir elke maand se pille. Ek is op by al 4 gaan vir die maand want ek het enige pille agterna abuse totdat ek myself geleer, look you so dependent on tablets, you have to wean yourself off. And it took me many years to wean myself off those tablets. It went lang gevat because the tablets helped me. It was my crutch. But it was later now, you know what? I can't go through life like a zombie. Ek kan ook nie aan my kap die crutch staat maak nie. So all in all, what this whole thing about depression can I say in my life, can I say, until I got married, not until I got married, until I joined a church where I was not supposed to speak my mind or have my own identity. I never even thought I had depression because I found so many ways to deal with it until I joined the specific church and when I met my husband and we toe ek kyk as jy maar as jy 'n man trou moet jy na die man se kerk toe gaan. That is what happened with me. Ek gaan na die man se kerk toe. En dat ek nou depression, I think that is way to besef ek hallo my is in depression because of X, Y and Z jy word depressed. So dat ek besef, maar my fokus is nie dit. Dis 'n ou ding. Jy het dit gedeel, I mean, maar jy kan jy nie deel want jy het nou 'n man, jy het kinders, jy moet jou mond op almal se oë op jou gerig, you know? And the bad thing of all of ek dink die worst ding van alles was ek het op 'n kerkgrond gebly. Ek kon nie run away. Ek het op 'n kerkgrond gebly.
En jy, die feit dat ek dink 'n mens deel 'n bietjie meer met depression wanneer jy jonger is because jy kan uitgaan, jy kan gaan dans, jy kan jou vriende, you can do a lot of things to occupy your mind and your brain. But I think when you get married or now in a relationship or with children, you tend to, because your routine is kind of dezelfde die hele tyd. Die maak dat as amper soos there's no way out. Daar's altyd skole goed, daar's altyd was goed, daar's altyd dit. Maar as 'n kind kan jy sê nee en sy loop by die deur uit. Sy kan doen jou ding. But because as it was amper soos COVID, like a lot of depression and mental illness has spiked throughout COVID. Why? Ons is social beings, and that has been killed by COVID. And so now you almost have to deal with things that you're going through. So and so that makes that it spikes automatically, and you now become more aware of what you're doing or what you're doing to yourself or what is happening around you. But wanneer jy ouer raak, jy kan op die huis dit responsibilities soos jy nou mooi sê, jy het die man, jy het die kinders en almal kind of kyk na jou meer as your actions. And now it's like meer die pressure, al die spotlights is op jou and like it comes out more to the front. Maar die een ding wat in my mind altyd speel, daar's die brug soos 'n mens N1 soos 'n mens Kaap toe ry. Soos 'n mens onder die gaan 'n mens na Cape Gate. So daar was die een storie waar die vrou net uit haar kar het geklim het.
Die buitebrug.
Nee, dit was die N1 brug. Waar sy net gespring het. En a day or two prior, we drove that road. And now ever since I come to that bridge, it's like, he is wat die vrou gespring het. And I think a lot of the times it's like, hoekom het die vrou gespring? Hoekom het sy wat gedoen? Hoekom het sy dit gedoen? But it was a lead up to that, because when I went through the notes of what depression is, severe depression don't just happen. It's like
it's a build-up. Most definitely.
It's a little step. Yeah, there's a one or two odd unique cases where, you know, that it happens, but it's a build-up of little things that you're not dealing with.
Yes.
That gets to a point, and now it's like, it's the feel. And I think a lot of times also we kind of think, okay, maybe men is going to think less of us, but men also go through depression. They also go.
Oh, they do.
Ons praat hier daaroor nie. So, and when it comes to the what must you do part, baie kere dan sê hulle, you need to go talk to someone, either your doctor, you need to go to a psychologist, because then obviously your doctor will refer you to a psychologist or will give you tablets. But het kom by die praat ding, hoe kry mense om mense meer te laat praat daaroor?
Wat ek ook nog gedink, wat ek nou ingedink het wat jy nou sê is, mans, hulle gaan die depressie, maar mans het 'n ander manier hoe hulle depressie, hoe ek sê, hanteer en hoe hulle uitwys. Baie manne sal hulle vrouens liewer slaan en seermaak of hulle familie leed aandoen. Hulle het jy
I
You
think
know?
we lost.
En net
Oh,
toe 'n vraag gevra, ja, gaan weer 'n vraag asseblief.
nee, ons het maar net
Het
gevra,
Rachel weer 'n vraag?
hoe
Het jy
maak
nog 'n
'n mens
vraag?
om mense meer te laat praat oor hulle goed? Because it seems once you start talking about it, that is where the healing comes, because nou vind jy uit nie, ek deel ook met sekere goed, ek deel ook met sekere goed, and now it becomes a normal thing, en is nie meer like die labeling stigma thingy.
Ja. Ek persoonlik ondervinding vir my is, ek het agterkom as jy praat uit 'n ondervinding uit. Mense kan agterkom as jy net praat, met praat is. Mense kan agterkom as
Mm,
jy praat want jy weet waarvan jy praat. Then they are more prone to open up. I remember I'm a trauma counselor. Um,
mm,
I've got that qualification also, although I don't practice it. Ek word nie betaal vir dit om dit so te stel nie, but I do
mm,
praat met mense en so. But ek onthou when I did my internship at the trauma center in jammer ek wil 'n naam nog noem. Maar ek het met my internship daar gedoen vir 6 maande en this one day I got called in by the director or the not the director, the one under the director. As ek ingeroep en toe sê sy vir my, Sharonne, I need to speak to you. I don't like the way that you do your counseling because jy's ligsinnig. Um die trauma center is eintlik in Silverstream in Woodstock, is 'n oulike gebou, is 'n fisieke ou gebou. Ek dink hy was nans
mm,
daai jare daar gewees, soos 'n baie rustige stil gebou, stil gebied. Maar sy haar probleem met my was as ek besig met 'n counseling session, dan het hulle gewoon lag oor. Ek het dink geruk was ek besig met counseling. Ons het gelag en gepraat, almal het vir ons gehoor. But it was not to be heard. My ding was die ek is 'n plat mens. Ek kom by jou vlak. Like die spesifieke keer wat ek moes mense die brief het, was 6 oudjies. Het gebeur vir PG klas. Hulle moes die glas so kom in sheets. So toe hulle die sheets skuif, toe het een van die ouens vasgeval tussen die sheets en die hele almal die sheets afgekom op by persoon en soos
mm,
dit afgekom het, het die persoon gevul het. Sy hele liggaam
mm,
was gevul het, sy lyf was gesny. So
mm,
en sy maatjies, sy kollegas het dit gesien. Hulle het daar gestaan en dit gesien en they told me to debrief these guys. Nou kom die ouens
mm,
in. Ek het die een ou stinkpiere by die ander ouens dik. Jy kan sê is ook dik geroep van die dag aan. So nou praat ek met hulle. Nou sê my broer, nou ek praat so plat man, you know. But
mm,
when the point I'm trying to make is when I was done with that debriefing session, when they went out there, the problem wasn't solved, but they went out a better person. Het gelag en gepraat. Die woord ek met hulle gepraat met broer, ek is so naaikie. Sy sê vir nou so jy moet seker lekker maak, man. Ek jy is so dronk, jy moet so lekker ouetjie. Dit so. Ek praat plain. Dis wat ek counseling doen. So they didn't like it. They couldn't hear what I was saying to the people, but they could hear the laughter. They could hear die hoe kan ek sê um uh, ja, dat mense gehuil nie vir fout maak nie. Dat mense gehuil by my.
mm,
Maar die meeste gevalle het mense gelag because I came down to your level. Ek het my plat gemaak asof ek een van julle is, want ek kom by jou vlak. So the end of the
mm,
day people opened up more to me. Mense
yeah.
het dit oor mense met my toe kom te vra hulle, what's the problem? Even when ons Sharonne sê wat I couldn't help it. Moes mense praat mos van jou. Hulle sê mos so part of speaking to people and making them open up is not being the counselor, not being the professional all the time. Jy is dan, hulle is dan, you must come down to the person's level. Jy moet vir laat
Mm,
voel you can actually open up. Jy kan praat, jy al vloek sit nou man, al skree sy, doen wat sy doen wat sy moet doen om net uit te
mm,
kom dat ek veel kan help because the only way I can help you. So
mm,
yeah, and to say for the director, to say for look here, let me just tell you something, say to far. Have you seen the name on this building? It says trauma center. You know what? When
mm,
I come in this building, sometimes I feel traumatized. Met die
mm,
little maniertjies en giertjies, I feel ek traumatized. So I refuse to allow any client of mine that goes comes into my office to leave the same way. Hulle kom klaar traumatized in, hulle gaan traumatized uit die. I didn't solve the problem, but I helped them. So ek het vir hulle 'n
mm,
mate gehelp om beter uit te gaan as om in te kom. So part of getting people to open up for you. Ek dink dis nie vir jy gevra hoe help mense iemand om te praat om
mm,
uit te kom as om op hulle vlak te kom. Al
mm,
het jy nie miskien ryp ondervind nie, maar net om dit was net te probeer verstaan wat jy sê as jy sê jy was
mm,
verkrag gewees en altyd en daai help mense op te maak. Daai help mense om te praat wat hulle miskien nie so op met ander sê, maar dit vind hulle voel word jy gejudge because sometimes you in a profession where you feel jy weet alles, you don't. En nog elke dag leek van mense. Jy moet eintlik by plekke wat jy vir mense kan laat die ruimte skep om te sê, you know what? This is a safe space to be. Just open up. As jy nie wil, soms het ek mense kyk jy praat vir 'n hele uur, niemand het gepraat 'n hele uur nie. Or sit there, like my car, but that's what they needed at the moment. At the time,
Mm,
they just wanted you to just be there. Sometimes they just wanted to listen. Sometimes they
mm,
don't gehuil, and they just needed a space to cry.
mm,
Understand? So there's different ways to help people to open up, but at the end of the day, it starts with you. Dit begin nie by daai mense, begin by jou. Jy kan nie kon
mm,
na hy counsel sessie toe of hy gesprek wat jy nou wil hê en veel wil wys jy sê ou nie, jy sê girl, nie jy is nie. As jy
mm,
voel jy sê ou like girl, jy gaan hy persoon kan reiki. So
mm,
for me it is to try to come down to that person's level waar die persoon kan voel hy's vry om op te maak. Because otherwise dan jy gefail. You fail if the person didn't open up and you can't do that by just trying to let that person be. I'll praat die persoon kan 'n hele uur om me.
mm,
Maybe that's what the person needed at the time.
mm. Ja, ek dink dit kom terug na almal sessions wat ons gehad het sover waar dit kom by ons moet dan instead van die mense prep wat moet kom en praat, moet ons begin die community prep om te weet hoe om te antwoord. Because soms die
Exactly.
antwoorde wat hulle gee, sit jou terug met like, is fine, ek gaan nie verder oor praat nie. Ek ondervind dit baie by jeug, waar hulle sal klop goed te vir jou sê, nou wil hulle hoor, hoe gaan jy react, wat gaan jy
Mm.
sê, voor hulle by die rechte ding kom. Because
Exactly.
as jy gaan react met net die ding wat hulle nou moet praat, gaan hulle nie
Yeah.
vir daai ding sê wat hulle actually wil van jou
Exactly.
kom praat het nie.
Yes.
Because you're already judging them by what they say.
Daar sê presies wat probeer sê
So
het, ja.
yeah.
Because as ek nou, want die ding is dit soms dan toets hulle gewoon die water. Kyk, ek kan ek gooi om te kry. So kan ek hier
Mm,
iets sê om
mm,
gehelp te word. As ek
mm,
voel ek wil just nou kom ek verder praat, ek is klaar. En
yeah.
ek wil vir dit elke dag met die
Mm,
pyn te veel praat jy man. Maar
mm,
as jy nou voor dit kon, net jy's verkeerd. Los maar.
mm,
Of jy's 'n kind, of jy's
mm,
'n dad, jy's 'n dad, jy's 'n dad. Ah, los maar alles af. Because dan jy dit stryd verloor. Heeltemal.
yeah. Yeah. So ek dink
And
ons
sometimes,
next
hoe jy is te sê nie, jy moet net luister.
yeah. Yeah. Ja, ons begin agterkom waar die probleem lê en die probleem is baie by like if you are the friend of someone that comes and talk to them, it's about how you respond. It's about what your body language is. A lot of time we say a lot of words, but our body says something else, and most of the time people is going to believe what your body language say and not what you are saying with your words. And so in that we need to start teaching people about how to be kind with not just our words but also our body and our actions as well. Because ek dink baie mense in spesiaal in ons community ons word getoets baie keer met ek gaan vir jou iets sê en ons wag vir 'n maand om te sien wanneer kom daai secret uit. And wanneer het doen, then it's almost like a thing of, you know, I knew I can't trust anyone. I knew I shouldn't have said anyone. And then the person retracts back in our shell. So in order, because there's a lot of emphasis being placed on depression and mental health. And like I said, because of COVID, a lot of these mental health issues has been highlighted. And so with that,
Okay. Oh,
um,
we're back.
so ons het dit veel verloor. Ons rap gewoon het op. So yeah, so a lot of mental health issues has been highlighted with COVID, which was a good thing. So COVID was good and bad, but the good part was that now verstaan mense mental health 'n bietjie meer
Okay.
as wat hulle gedoen het voor COVID. And so our mission next should be that we should really start prepping our
Oh,
kids
yes, it was.
how they deal with their friends. So if their friend said something, don't say
Oh, yes.
they mustn't just say, hey, you stupid. Don't be stupid. As like, yes, I hear you. What is it that you want to say? What is it? And then almost kind of keep that secret, but at home they have that safe place where they can go talk and that's like, mommy so and so said that. What is an answer that I can give them? Type of thing. Because aan my met een van my dogters het dit gebeur waar hy het die een kind het gepraat met haar en gesê you know talking about killing themselves and things like that, and so I have to which is not the thing to do. But I had to then prep her to be a friend to this child because it would seem that this child had a safe space with my daughter. And so I had to prep her to be a friend to this child that was speaking about wanting to kill themselves. And I was like, you must be careful what you say about them or to them. You must be
Mm.
careful how what you now say when they are done talking and you don't feel that this child is going to be safe, go to teacher and say to teacher, this is what the
Mm.
child said to me. Um, so in that, het is basis ons prep die community om 'n
Oh
safe
yes.
space te raak. Because ek dink baie kere at home as miskien die kind word die ouma kyk na die kind en as sy 'n verstandige adultie, and so there's no
Mm.
one really that can check in and say, hey, how was your day? How did you do? Almal die
Mm-hmm.
goede and kind of go through it with the emotions. So it is a build up and when they van hulle by 'n plek kom van teenage jare en hulle het die strength en almal daai goed, nou kom dit uit in anger and now we also telling the child um kyk hierso, jy's 'n probleem. So we really need to start thinking about how we talk to our friends, how we talk to the community child, and how we deal with our own children because that is how we're gonna help when it comes to a lot of mental illnesses. So again, tonight we said a lot, but again, there was a lot of things highlighted. I did put on Sagda's number. They are with depression and anxiety. If you know, if anyone, they are on Facebook. There's a suicide hotline, and which is the same as Sagda's. It's the same. You will see there. It's the same number, which is the 0800 567 number. They are also on Facebook that you can also contact. And there is other places like trauma center and rape crisis and all of these things that you can phone in order to just talk. But I think the best thing for you, if you feel you have depression and it's going on for a long time, to go to your doctor and they will direct you to the right places where you need to go. But as mentioned, depression comes along with a lot of emotions and it's the up and down of our emotions. And that is where a lot of these um, depressions kind of spike. But again, thank you for being with us tonight. Thank you for those that are viewing. Thank you for Sharonne for allowing us time and telling us her story with depression. And as we end off, we want to also remind you guys that tomorrow night we're talking to Yolanda and we're talking about women with disabilities and how they, what struggles and challenges they have. And like again, we say for August month, we are really trying to do the unthinkable by interviewing a woman every night with different issues that is around womanhood and just see that how it connects and what way we go forward from September month onwards. But again, thank you for tonight for viewing. Thank you for all those comments. And we say good night. Keep blessed, keep sane, and keep safe and keep warm. Good night.